Hey everyone, and if you're watching this, you made it to Friday, so good job. We survived another week in the office or wherever you might be working at, or maybe you're not at all, and then I happen to envy you very much. So welcome to another edition of Cyber Social Hub's Hubcast. My name is Kevin DeLong, the founder of Cyber Social Hub, and you say, well, wait, what is Cyber Social Hub? Hold on, this is where we plug it right here. It's a online community of digital investigators. That's really about it. So if you're looking at something that contains data and you need it for an investigation, we're going to do our best to help you. And the community there is freaking amazing, the knowledge that they have. So most of you know that I was an investigator for years, about 15 years, full-time in law enforcement. And then I went where there was money. So no, that was I enjoyed my time in law enforcement, and the guys that are still there doing a rough job right now. Oh man, I feel bad for some of them out there. They're really good people that are out there trying to do that job every day. It's rough. So today, what I want to talk about a little bit here is we don't have an official sponsor, but the folks that are on today have been a sponsor in the past of it. So I'm going to flip over to this screen. Dun, 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 there it is, authenticate. So down right there. So the reason I'm showing this and not reading their script like I normally do is they wanted me to offer the free trial for you for, I think it's Silo. So if what we're talking about today, it's already below in the show notes. See, even Mr. Tampa says, what a great tool. I am going to, oops, I don't want to put it over their ad. I will put it up on my head. There we go. Let me come down here. There we go. So now you can absolutely see it. And yeah, it's awesome. Good. I'm glad you like it, sir. Much appreciated. And I also put it in the, if you're on YouTube, now we're broadcasting out to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course YouTube. All the chats for the most part come in through YouTube. We can see Facebook for a little bit, but I cannot see, just so you know ahead of time, I cannot see if you're talking to me on LinkedIn. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. It's I can't see it back here with the software that we're using. Come on over to YouTube. All the cool kids are over here anyway, hanging out. So I'm kidding. It's my personality, so that's what it is. So what I want to do real quick is I want to introduce to you, hold on, I need my paper because he told me the proper way to pronounce this, and you guys all know me. If your name is not Bob Smith, I'm going to slaughter it. But Adam Hinky, and I think I got that name right. Did I get that right, Adam?
Yes, you did, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. And my dog's making noise behind me. So that's kind of our thing. So, hey, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate you taking your time out Friday to come chat with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh yeah. So we were talking in pre-show, so most of you know that little countdown timer that goes. Adam and I are talking back there, and we're obviously getting ready for the show to make sure. Mainly, I don't screw anything up and make anyone look bad, which I'm really good at doing. And we were talking about we both have dogs, right? And my dog is literally she's laying on a bed right here, and my wife's due home any minute. So I'm just warning you guys ahead of time, since the show's live, she will bark. And then Adam, you have your kids when they come home, dogs bark.
Yep. Oh yes, yes. They're upstairs right now. I'm just making sure he's okay. Had a little, problem yesterday, but we're good today. So
Yeah, awesome. And I always comment because I'm one of those weird, creepy guys that stalk people's backgrounds, right? And you got 3D printers back there. You got all kinds of stuff. We talked about we met earlier in the week about your son's 3D printing and stuff. And mine, I don't know if we can see. I got to move my mic. Hold on. There it is. It's okay. And I have like the first time I tried printing in ASA, which is like a oh gosh, I can't even think of the name. It's a hard plastic that essentially like PVC, kind of like that.
Mhm.
Melts to high heaven and back. Oh my god, I won't print with that anytime soon in this little closet anymore. Anyway, so again, hey, welcome to the show. I appreciate it. And something I do have to mention, I think I brought you on a little prematurely, but hey, you're going to join the fun with me. And well, actually, we were talking in pre-show when we met earlier in the week to kind of test all the equipment that you're kind of a Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah. Avid Star Wars fan. My wife would consider me an avid Star Wars fan. She's a bigger Star Wars fan than I am, but yeah.
Really? Oh, all right. Well,
Mm.
most people know here at Cyber Social Hub, we're Star Wars fans. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Whatever side I'm on here, and and every month we run trivia from inside of Cyber Social Hub. So if you're a member of Cyber Social Hub, just log in and you'll see there's I think, is it up yet, Megan? I should probably ask that question before I go, go and promote this thing. And I know we're a few days early on it. So I better check with Megan to make sure it's early. Hold on. I get some message. Oh no, she's swearing. Yeah, it's not, it's live, but it's not in the hub yet. So watch for it very soon. I'm getting live updates. You can probably hear them dinging. Megan's using profanities. I can't repeat it. What she said? She's like, it's not up yet. Wait. So if you see it in Cyber Social Hub up, there'll be a QR code there, and it's Star Wars trivia mixed with a little digital forensic stuff for this coming month. Our winner last time, we're notifying them yet. We haven't notified, and you know me, I don't like to mention names unless somebody gives me the okay to mention them that they're the winner. So congratulations, they won. Hang on, where'd it go? I just had it set here. One of these little guys right here, which is our kind of our signature shot glass. Actually fired from an A10 Warthog. It's a shell casing cut down, and really, as you can see, where the primer went and everything. So pretty awesome. They won one of those, so congratulations. And we go off of the highest points, so make sure you're paying attention when you do that trivia, because your points and time matter. It's countdown, and we'll ship you that thing absolutely free. So Adam, we're here to talk a little bit of Osint today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So I guess the where we want to start here first is I want to always give this kind of disclaimer myself that, you know, we invited you on here, and even though Authenticate is showing under your name and it's such a rock awesome company, is like everybody has opinions. So your opinion is, you know, your opinion, right? It's not reflecting the company or anything like that. So there we go.
Agreed.
Basically that's the disclaimer, that if we go off on some weird tangent about Star Wars, you know, maybe Authenticate doesn't like Star Wars. I don't know. But I have a feeling they're fellow nerds as well, and they'll be right in the conversation. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you first get involved in Osint?
So my background is more military based. I
Mhm.
spent 9 years as an all source analyst in the United States Marine Corps.
Oh,
Um, from all the levels, from battalion all the way up to headquarters, special operations command, multiple deployments downrange to Afghanistan and Iraq and some other countries. And so analysis is analysis, research is research, in my opinion. So being able to do that stuff, you just kind of pick up how to do OSINT. I transitioned from that to digital forensics, building, you know, briefs for training purposes. And then went and got my degree in cybersecurity, where you again learn a little more about what cyber is, but still having that ability to do research, which is all OSINT is to me, right? If you're able to go out to find, if you're given a task and given an email or a name, or you're trying to find a topic, if you can go and search it on the internet, that's OSINT in my opinion. Now, some may disagree, some may agree, but that's what it comes down to. Is to be a good OSINTer, you've got to be able to, I guess, think outside of the box and think analytically. And I know we're probably going to get to that later, as far as the difference between linear thinking and analytical thinking.
oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. And even better yet, you're a fellow Ohioan currently, right?
Yes,
So
yes, I'm back in Ohio. I
you're
moved from
in the state.
Florida to Ohio. Some people call me crazy.
I would be one of those. Sorry.
No, 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 no. See, when you leave Florida in the middle of June and it's 7 a.m. and it's 90 degrees outside, that's why I left.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's why.
Until you're here mid February or beginning of February, and then you realize, oh man,
I was riding my motorcycle in February. It's not that
well, it's
bad.
true. It's uh, Ohio and global warming. We're kind of a promoters of that here. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know I'm going to catch some crap for that. I'm joking, people. Criminy, jeez. So yeah, in Ohio as well. So are you a Buckeyes fan, or which is your team? Because you're kind of in the middle of the state. Is it Cleveland or is it Cincinnati? Where do you fall?
So I'm going to make a lot of Ohio State fans mad because I am not an Ohio State fan. I've never been an Ohio State fan. Born and raised in Ohio, and I'm actually a fan of the team that everybody hates in Ohio. So I'm a Michigan fan.
You're gonna
So
do
yeah,
oh, yeah. How
that's
does that happen? I had
I don't know.
my partner at work is the same way. I wouldn't say was. He's still full-time copper, and he's a Michigan fan, diehard, and I'm just like, "Yeah."
As from football standpoint or from professional sports, I'm not a huge professional sports guy. I'm more of I liked college, but now with all the new stuff they're able to do and get money off of their name and kind of I don't know. I think it's strange. Um, I get that they need to make money, but you're getting a full ride scholarship to a college. Like I don't want to hear complaints, right? I mean, that's
Right.
my opinion. Again, I don't want to hear any complaining unless you're downrange in Iraq having to get shot at or in a foreign country doing that type of stuff. So
Right on. Now, as former military, I noticed a lot of my former military friends and colleagues, after they get out and they've been in a while, the beard comes out because it's so long, probably of having to keep that clean shave. Now you're just like, I ain't doing it no more.
my wife wishes I would shave off my beard. It's not happening. Um, yeah, I've been growing this since I got out. It was shorter, at one point, but I just let it go and keeping it the way it is. I'm not going to let it get any longer than this. I'm probably going to cut 2, 3 inches off this summer, just before the
It,
summer hits.
it's a righteous looking beard. I'm jealous. I can't get that. See, I have big, bald and patchy spots if I try to, so I just don't even try anymore.
Many years of growing facial hair to include like in high school at 16, I had a goatee and Elvis sideburns as a 16-year
Wow.
old. Good luck if anybody to find those pictures. I know there's pictures out there, but I doubt anybody can find them.
Kind of the benefit of us in pre internet really for anything else, then we don't have to worry about the advanced Google dorking going finding old images of us from high school. Thank God
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
I
a
know.
problem. Oh man, that's funny. So I don't want to, and I know people always roast me in chat, but people are I should be pretty nice today. That's a good
Yeah,
deal. Usually because I take so long to get to it, but I like people to get to know who you are a little bit first, and that way it's more of a conversation, and they're not afraid to ask questions. So, and I see Chris is already in there asking some questions. I mean, we'll get to those, I promise, as we go through this. If I don't have time for whatever reason, we'll make sure we follow up with Adam afterwards to do that. So, also, real quick, let me preface this real quick. If you guys do have a question at any point, just put the letter Q and a colon in there. And that way, when I go through and search, I have a search bar that I can search all of chat really quick, and it just brings those questions up. That way, I can ask them all at the end. Usually, if I see them going by, if you guys are a watcher of the show, we have ADD here for the most part, and we'll jump back and forth between chats and our topic at hand. Because again, I want it to be a conversation. It's just not Adam and I sitting here talking. You guys are always welcome to pipe in at any point and ask some questions. It makes the show really interesting, and as we go through. Um, but when we're talking about OSINT, I know you have your opinions and definitions of OSINT and how OSINT should be done. And the title of this had to do with companies, right?
hmm
And you and I were talking last week about organizations that are running Intel teams or OSINT teams, right? And what are your thoughts there? How should that be structured? Because obviously there's a big need for it. And let me start with this: why would a company use OSINT or intelligence gathering?
So my opinion on it would be the reason why they would want to use it is so that they can gain some insight on what's going on that they may not be gaining insight on, right? Like I used to work for an organization here in Ohio, and I won't name them because I don't want to name them out. But it would be nice to know sentiment about what's going on at certain locations that they owned, or did someone have a bad experience? Most of that stuff's been posted online now. You need to find this stuff and look for it. People go on Facebook and they post, "Oh, I had a bad experience here," or "This happened here." I see it all the time, and not a lot of organizations are looking for that. They're not going out and going, "Well, did someone use my at whatever to call me out or a hashtag on TikTok or something out there. So they need to do it to kind of see what sentiment there is. But also, one of the things I've noticed is they need the teams in order to maybe check up on some employees, do that, internal threat, you know, stopping that internal threat problem, along with some of their executives who are posting a lot of stuff that maybe they shouldn't be posting. I've seen it. It's crazy. Again, and there's teams involved in a lot of these locations and a lot of these organizations. But when you've got someone who's that high up in a company, a CEO or an executive or somebody at that level in the C-suite level, will say, they shouldn't be posting that they're on vacation until they're done with vacation. It doesn't take much for a bad guy, and I'm not a bad person, but it doesn't take much for someone like me with just a little of knowledge to go on Facebook and find out, oh, they're not at their house. Well, where do they live? Let me go rob their house. Like, I'm being serious. It's not that's something that people are doing today, and no one's really saying, "Hey guys, time out. We need to check that." And that's what that team could be used for. Um, there's a bunch of other reasons too. Cyber threats are big. We're trying to figure that stuff out. Um, being able to do research on that stuff, being able to just find information on someone who's maybe trying to fraud the company, or all that type of stuff.
Yeah, like
Hopefully that makes some sense.
yeah, no, like Mo says here, I put it up above us here, and it says, yeah, like the old State Farm commercial, headed to Hawaii. So yeah, that's a really good example of that. And hey, Mo, you made it 2 weeks in a row, so thanks for popping in 2 weeks in a row. Appreciate that. Now, with that, with OSINTs and companies, and we could probably sit here and make just an episode alone of this, of all the reasons that a company would want to know information that's either being pushed out, or being talked about them, or maybe there's IP leaks or something like that they'd want to keep an eye on, as part of that. And we can go all day about how cybersecurity and OSINT folks should kind of be working hand in hand with a lot of the information out there. But how, in your opinion, and I'm going to try to lead those commercials, those questions like that. So, we pull that off. In your opinion, how do you think an internal intel team should be organized, or where should it lie within an organization?
That's a very
Oh, I
tough
think
question
we
to
lost your
answer.
audio there, Adam.
Did you? Can
Or
you hear me? Test,
it
test,
might be me. Stand by. You talk. I'll see if you're on there.
test, test, test. Hello, hello, hello.
I don't hear you.
Tell me we didn't lose my audio.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Because my board. The reason the reason I do that is because my board every now and then. Oh, it says everybody can hear him except me. Okay. So it's my board. I'm sorry, Adam. You keep talking. I'm gonna fix my board really quick. So make this a
Okay,
long
just double
episode.
check. I unplugged my headset. I
Go
unplugged
ahead.
my headset, so let me see. So okay, so where they should lie, that is a loaded question. It really depends on what the organization's trying to do and where you want to be. But I think many organizations, if it's a security team or an intel security team, you need to put them, under a CISO, who then the CISO should directly talk to the board of directors. Um, I think overall, what you could build is an intelligence arm or intelligence organization that would have a chief intelligence officer who then answers to the board of directors. And I subscribe. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. I subscribe to the Agent Ass philosophy that he wrote. I wholeheartedly believe in that. I think it's you got to have board of director buy-in when it comes to intelligence, and so everybody's got to figure this out, right? The hard part is we look at the term in government. Intel talks directly to the leadership of any organization. A lot of orgs that I've seen and I talk to, the intel talks to some third manager, whether they fall under risk or they fall somewhere else, and they never get to the board of directors and tell them, "Here's what I can give you. But you need to make the decision on the information I'm providing you, not have me be. That's not my job. Intel teams should not be making decisions. They should be providing information, maybe providing a risk assessment, maybe providing an assessment, and then um, try to, I guess, give a couple of courses of action and not provide an answer, if that makes sense. And it looks like we're
Yeah.
having audio trouble unless you can hear
No,
me.
I got you. I see that was all me, guys. So it wasn't Adam. At my so I bought this like really nice Roadcaster Pro. I would show you, and it's stinking awesome. I loved it, but then I upgraded my computer because my old one died to the Mac, the M1 chip. What was it, last year or a year or two ago? And now
Mhm.
it does not like staying connected to this road at all. So that was my fault. We got you all fixed now. Usually, and here's the fix, right? It's like, and I don't mean to mess with Windows, but this is kind of the joke, right? Unplug it, plug it back in, and it worked just fine as soon as I did that. Everything came back. I just had to hit
Yep.
auto cancellation, and we should be good. So good to go. Again, apologies for that. So yeah, I mean that's and I heard actually most of your answer because I got it fixed pretty good. That's a good thing. Did we forget to read the
It's a very
instructions?
tough
Yeah,
answer to
we could have
give.
on my road on how that works, but yeah, it is what it is.
It's a very tough answer to go by and give
Mm,
because there's so many different thinkings about it. It really depends on what the organization needs. Could you? In one of the blog posts that I did, I wrote about like you could have an intel team that answers to a chief intelligence officer, and under that you have an Osint team, you have a reports team, you've got a vulnerability team, and all these other teams that again form a what we would call in the military like an intelligence battalion that has separate groups of people doing different things, all answering to the chief intelligence officer who may fall under the CISO or may fall underneath the C-suite and the CEO and answer directly to the CEO. I think, and that's how AG Nash kind of explains it. And you've got to get the Intel team into the boardroom, or at least someone from Intel into the boardroom to explain a lot of things and go, this is what we're seeing. Here's a list of recommendations. Now it's on you to make the decision. Don't leave it up to me, the Intel guy, because that's not my job. But I've seen it happen where, and I've had to do it, where I've had to write risk assessments and what do I think the risk is to the org? And I'm like, but I don't really know what I'm doing here. Right. I honestly don't.
yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm watching chat, and Mr. Tampa says great response. There has to be essentially separation if you're working for someone who wants certain answers. Bias will develop. Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's a hard thing too, right? As analysts, we're kind of told you've got to get rid of the bias that you have, whether conscious or unconscious. But
Hmm.
we still have biases that we develop, and I have them in in my life. I try and because of what I've done in my career, separate them out. And I give an example like this: when I was in Iraq or Afghanistan, or as in Iraq mainly, a lot of the young Marines were like, "Oh, look at that Haji over there! Look at that Haji over there!" And I'm like, "Hold on, time out. Let's not talk to them like that. Let's get that bias out of our mindset." Because everybody who's in the military knows sometimes that was a derogatory term, sometimes it wasn't. And we were all young, we were all doing silly things, and you try and instill in my young Marines like that's not a proper term sometimes, right?
Right
If
on.
they haven't been to the Hajj, that's not what you call them. And we don't want to use it just as a willy nilly term because we're creating bias. We think everybody's bad. We can't do that.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly. Um, so with this, I know you had alluded a little bit between the difference of well, let me catch this just a second. Mo made a good point in law enforcement ourselves. I hate to say it, and don't ever call me to testify to this fact, but there is some bias in law enforcement. Because when you deal with essentially 1%, 2%, I don't remember what the number was of the population, and all you see is the doom and gloom all the time. You make some assumptions that everybody is a horrible person and doing bad things. And literally, it took me years being out of law enforcement full time to to realize that hey, people aren't really all bad. I guess they're not like a secret killer back there or anything like that. And it exists everywhere too. So not just to call out military, but law enforcement. But I'm sure heck, I can't find a good analogy. Like garbage men have bias towards people that always throw out their recycles wrong. I don't know. I'm making crap up now.
I mean,
But
I wasn't trying to associate on the military. It's just we've got to get rid of bias in analysis. If you don't get rid of bias in analysis, you're not really doing analysis.
true.
if that makes sense.
Yep, exactly. And maybe your thoughts on this is that when I did digital in forensic cases, not dealing with OSINT, which is completely different, just because it was digital doesn't make it anything similar for the record here. But is that I would always approach a case like I was trying to disprove the case. Whatever the investigator brought to me, to get rid of that bias is like, hey, I'm trying to disprove that what they're telling me happened. And if I can lay it out here, then hey, it's good that way. But most cases you couldn't. You saw it showing the other
Yeah.
direction, and that's the way it went. But that's the way I approached my cases. Now, with OSINT, obviously, it's a little different because you have to actively look for the information. You're talking about a large scale of search that you're doing in order to find data and information.
Yeah, and having a digital forensics degree did help me with understanding that process. And I will say that was one of the toughest courses to go through because some of the stuff I'm like, I don't want to ever hear about this ever again. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Kevin. There's things
Yeah.
that you just, as a digital forensics person, you're like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to talk about it, but you have to talk about it and do
Oh
it. So
boy. Yep.
let's
Absolutely.
not go there though. We can
No,
steer that. We can steer this away from that now.
I won't. We'll do my favorite thing. We'll go squirrel and go talk about
Yeah.
something else over here. Excuse me. So obviously we got people here that are seasoned OSINT folks that I can kind of see in chat, and more new people. I'm just curious of how many, as anyone's got, well, maybe people may not want to tell us that they're, oh, my audio sounds softer. Sorry, that's me purposely not trying to talk loud in the mic. I got still a little bit of a cough that I was dealing with. But so with that, how does someone get the OSINT skills that they're looking for? Where's a good source? Where can they go? What kind of things can they do if they can do it on their own to really improve their skills? Now, I know we're talking two types, right? Analytical and the investigative side. So let's touch on that first. Can you explain those two first, and then kind of talk about the skill sets needed after that?
From an analytical standpoint, I think you've got to have someone who can think out of the box and doesn't think in a step by step approach. I'm, again, as you mentioned earlier, ADHD. I have ADHD, just non diagnosed because I'm from that generation where they didn't do that. Um, my wife yells at me all the time because I'll be surfing the internet and it's like I've got 50 tabs open, clicking through each one, waiting for one to open. And my brain thinks like that, right? I go
Right.
from A to D to C to F to back to B. Like my brain doesn't think in a linear fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when you look at an analyst, that's what you need. You need that skill set to kind of like think differently, think out of the box, realize, wait a minute, this isn't working. Let me go over here real quick and look at this, and maybe this will work and do this. Like so, with an analyst, yes. So we change this just a little bit. Analyst needs to have the ability to think out of the box, but then be able to take that information and put it into something that can be digested by everyone. It's a tough skill to get. One of the things I learned in Intel school was how to write formal work, formal writing and things like that. While I'm not good at it, I didn't do well in college when it comes to writing because, man, it's not easy. But so, main thing for an analyst is just being able to think outside the box and be a nonlinear thinker. From an investigative standpoint, same processes. I think they're pretty much the same in my opinion, but that's me. The hard part is where do you get this training, right? You've got to go to. There's a couple of good things out there, like OSINT Combine and Sands has a good course, but is it really worth the $8,000? In my opinion, not really. Um, it's tough because unless um, unless you are formally trained or you've gone to school and you've gone to a college and you do your research there and you understand how to do research and maybe you're going for a certain degree that has that built in, it's tough to get training and it's tough to train people how to be an analyst. And a lot of the people that I saw before I came into to authenticate, they weren't true analysts. They were like, well, I have a background in cybersecurity. Now I want to be an analyst. Or I have a background in digital forensics and fraud. Now I want to be an analyst. Not everybody can be an analyst. I hate to say it. I'm not trying
Right.
to make anybody upset, but not everybody can be an analyst, right? Um, The other thing is just going out online and looking for things that maybe interest you when it comes to analysis and reading. The more reading you do, the better, right? I've gone to several courses where reading was a key component, right? And I hate reading. But the more you read, the more you get, the more knowledge you have, the more you understand things. And one of the classes I took in the military was the analysis of competing hypotheses. Actually, no, that was one of the things they taught us. This was critical thinking, critical thinking skills, something or other CTYSA or something. And I'm like, I'm never going to use this because the way they're telling me to write my analytical reports is instead of putting a percentage of what you think it's going to happen, use the words most likely, most frequent, most common, most this, most that. And I'm like, but my most likely is probably could be different than your most likely, right? So while I get you're trying to bring everybody into the same level and level set everything, is it really working? Is that really what you want to do?
Right. Right. Yeah, and
I mean,
it's just it's so subjective, right? As to what you just said. You know, again, my most likely, and again, hopefully, it doesn't have some bias in there that you know, based off that of information. So now I heard here that you're kind of the OSINT trainer over at Authenticate. Is that right?
yes, yes, I am.
All right. So I got Chris. The reason I bring that up because I see Chris, and it's actually one of my next questions that I have here listed
Yeah,
out. And I see Chris asking for information. Is like, hey, does Authenticate have any sources or something that people can look at, white papers? And I know they have a lot of that stuff, right?
we have a lot on our blog section or our
Hmm.
resources section. There's white papers, there's blogs. Um, Again, one of my main roles as at Authenticate is to do OSIT training for our customers, whether that be walking them through not only how to use our tool, but any pain points they have, anything I can maybe help with research. I've met with some customers who very little experience doing OSINT, so I'm showing them how to do Google Dorking and I'm walking them through how to do social media research. And then I've met with other customers, a couple of them who've come from organizations that really know how to do PAI collection, OSINT, that type of stuff, and I'm like, you don't need me, you really don't. You
Right.
know more than I do, right? I've talked to people and I'm like, you know more about doing OSINT than even I do. And what it comes down to is sometimes these orgs just need someone to tell them that. I've had a conversation with one customer who was like, I want to do a policy. And I'm like, well, you have a CISSP. You know how to write a policy. You know, you've doing this a lot longer than I have. You just need someone to tell you that you're doing it correctly. When I had the
Hmm.
conversation with him, it was a 40-minute conversation about just about that. And said, he's like, I've been thinking about doing this and doing this and doing this. I'm like, you're right. Just do that. You'll be fine. And he's like, oh, I just need someone to tell me that I was right. I'm like,
They just
you
needed
need
that
that
little bit of boost, right?
reassurance.
Yeah. Right.
And we
Now
all
there's
need that, right?
Oh yeah, man! Every day of the week. When it was funny when even today is we're 7 years into this company, and I still get imposter syndrome. And I did the field for I don't know how. Anyway, it happens to everybody, no matter who they are, what they are. And then if I'm right here, man, I don't know anything about this. Just to let you guys know ahead of time before. There's my stupid disclaimer. I'm just throwing out there in advance. Um, there's not a, is there a college? There's not college course or training on OSINT, right? For companies that need this stuff that you can't go. At least I've never heard anything. If there is, somebody post it down into chat, or if you're watching this after it airs live, put it in the comments. I'll be curious to see if there's maybe a small university or a small community college picked it up with some OSINT expert there trying to make some extra cash
I,
and
I
fortune.
I know that AMU was offering like a military intelligence
Mhm.
course. American Military University, I think they're called AMU or APU. A couple of, and Mr. Tampa Privacy posted, I just saw Arizona State. There's a couple places that have them, but a lot of people are just, they're like, oh, I just got out of college. I've got a
Mhm.
bachelor's degree in cyber. I can do OSINT. And more than likely they can. You just have to teach them the finer points of analysis and guide them to the right answer. Not really guide them the answers, but guide them along their career and their path. Um, so, I mean, that's my opinion. Again, we're
Yeah,
going
and
off opinions here.
And it's hard because there's not a lot of formalized stuff. There's a lot of like I know several companies that I won't mention anybody's name here, but there's several of them out there that will that offer training in OSINT. They have small webinars, little small things And like you said, I think Sands has that rather pricey course, and if that's in your budget, have at it. I'm sure it's good. I don't know of. I've never attended it myself, but usually how I like to learn things is, man, there's so much information out there. Udemy may have something. I don't know. Haven't been over there. And just be careful when you go to a place like that, because, they may say there's some big OSINT investigator and they've never done a case in their life. It'll become really apparent. But, for 10, $30, it may not be terrible. Oh yeah. Hey, hang on. I got to give a plug here to Mo. Yeah, that's right. She teaches it at NW3C. So you can head over there, check out at NW3C. And then also, Jay Bano says currently at WGU, and Penn Plus has OSINT topics, which were covered. Where's I don't, abbreviations and me. I don't, maybe the military guy can translate this a little bit better, because
Western Governors University,
I don't know. And Penn Plus.
something like that.
Hey,
That might be Pen Test Plus.
yeah, expand on that. Tell us where you're talking. That way we can refer people over to it. Well, I mean, Mo, you have a unique background. We didn't call things OSINT when we were actually working. Yeah, you were right, on that Western Governors University. So, yeah, pretty cool. So apparently there's more sources, and maybe that's something that we should. Was it CompTIA Pen? Yeah, you exactly. You hit it right on that. And look at that. You knew right what they were talking about.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and maybe we should have like a resource listed in the hub of all the places that you can get training, all the variety of things, part of the library out there. And you guys, Authenticate comes on the show occasionally, and so I appreciate you coming out too. And I know we've done some other stuff together. Always a wealth of information, especially with I learned a lot. Gosh, I can't remember the guy's name now. The product head of your product,
Daniel.
That and he was on the show. Oh gosh, I know Megan's probably like swearing in her breath right now. Why can't you remember it? It was so much fun. We talked to him, and he showed the product and talked about the silo quite a bit of its capabilities and why you want to use it. And we had some talks like here in pre-show as well of how you can really hide and the things that people don't consider. Can you do it all on your own? Yeah, you could, but man, if you forget one piece of trying to do an investigation and you're leaving a trail, and now that you've exposed yourself, right?
Yeah, and then again, we talked about this, right? The old ways of getting on the internet and doing research and trying to blend in with everybody was get a VPN, get a proxy service, use the Tor browser, maybe all three of those things combined, and maybe pretend to be somebody. It's tough to do. If one piece of that chain breaks, you're done, right? You can't get it back, or maybe you forget what uh, you forget who you're pretending to be that day, or what country that person's supposed to be in, or yesterday he was in this country, now you came out of this exit, this node in some other country, and you're like, does it make sense that he could travel that far in 6 hours or 10 hours or however many, and it's so difficult. And our tool thankfully allows you to do all that stuff. It allows you to, you know, manage who you are, manage what you're doing through our points of presence or egress nodes, and show the world of the internet something that maybe makes sense to them and blend in with the crowd.
Yeah,
If that
no,
makes sense.
exactly. So, staying on the topic with the kind of the OSINT training part of
Mhm.
things we've been talking about is what tips, if and I'm going to put you on the spot. It's not something we talked about ahead of time. I apologize. Remember what I told you? Tell me to go
Yep.
pound sand if you don't want to answer anything.
No. Please, let me hear the question first.
If you had, and this is going to be a piece of cake for you, I wouldn't make it hard for you. If if there were three skills, and you can make as many as you want. I'm throwing three out just because it's a nice, easy number. Three skills that every OSINT investigator should have, right? What top three skills do you think they should have? I guess that's the easiest way to say it. Too
Oh,
complex.
I mean, the first one that comes to mind, honestly, is being able to think like the enemy, or being able to think whatever, again, like who you're targeting or who you're trying to collect against, right? So, I mentioned earlier, like if I was a bad person, how would I go after somebody on a C-suite or at the executive level or in my organization? Having the ability to think like that and go, okay, what would I do next? How would I find this? is you can then flip that and go, now I know how they think. I can figure out what's going on. Um, but that comes with out of the box thinking, right? So being able to think outside the box and think like your enemy and do it that way. I think um, another set of skills, man. Um, this is tough because it's like, what do I want to cherry pick and put in here that people are going to hold me to?
All right,
And
that's
I
why.
don't want them to be holding me to everything because again, these are my opinions. I think you've got to be able to. God, let me think.
I would
Chris
say,
brings up
let me.
a good one in the chat that I'm looking at. Brainstorming. I think brainstorming and being able to separate to not have groupthink, right? Um, and then learn something every day. Honestly, one of the things I'd said myself when I was in my last job was like, I learned something every day. I don't know everything. I cannot know everything. I need to know. I need to learn something every day, whether it's learning about a computer or learning about this vulnerability or learning about this, right? And that comes from just reading news sites and reading this and reading that. I've talked to analysts and they're like, well, my focus is here. I really don't care what's going on in the world of news and big news. And I'm like, but you need to understand what's going on the world stage with regards to what is happening in every country, in any
Mm-hmm.
country.
Right. So what you just said, let me translate this, make sure I got this, is really somebody needs to be naturally curious, right? They have to have that ability to want to learn new skills, new things, and new ways of thinking, right? They have to be curious to think outside the box, to be able to go and learn something new. That really is a form of curiosity because my 11-year-old has none of that in school right now. She doesn't want to learn anything, so I'm hoping that comes with
Yeah.
time. But and then the other thing, which now just slipped my mind as I'm sitting here talking, Mo mentions have to be persistent, which I agree. It takes like I think you were talking about. Maybe it was the other day that we were talking about how. Oh yeah, thanks, Chris. There you go. Keeping up on current events, which is kind of a curiosity, but staying informed. Thank you, Chris, for
Mhm.
reminding my brain flow of that. Stay informed of current trends, right? Not just trends, but information that may be going on, things going on in the world.
Agreed. Yeah. And again, you put me on the spot there with three things. There's probably a million things we could mention and talk about.
Yeah, you could make a list mile long, I'm sure.
And again, I've got knowledge in a myriad of things, with regards to like cellular theory and cellular phone background. I've got knowledge in networks and network analysis and network architecture, and it, it's all pertinent. But I think when it comes down to is you've got sometimes analysts they go and just apply to a job. It's an analyst job. Maybe it's not the right analyst job at the right company.
Mm-hmm.
Find one that's tailored to your best things that you have in your skill set, in your little box, your little toolbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have different skills. You're a digital forensics investigator, or at least were at one point in time. Yes, do I have a degree in digital forensics? Yes. Have I done it in the real world? Not really. So could I do it? Yes, but you're going to do it better than I can. So I wouldn't try and apply for a digital forensics job just
Yeah,
because I have a degree in
I don't know anymore, man. It's been your daughter's home.
it.
Um,
Not yet. No, no, not yet. I keep looking. I hate to say it. I keep looking out my window here to
thought I heard the
see it.
alert.
No.
um, so yeah, I mean, I'm rusty, but I see what it is like because in digital forensics when it first came out, obviously it was just computers. We were looking at computers all day long, and then cell phones were added into it, and now IoT's part of it, and then drones were added to it. I see OSINT, and I'd be curious in your opinion here, but OSINT is something similar because what you just talked about a couple seconds ago was with a lot of technical side of things could be your thing, right? Could be what
Yep.
you like to look at, and maybe someone's really likes to go and Google Dork, which I still call it advanced Google searching, but or and then you have some of the old school, or not really old school, but it's just stuff that maybe is not digitized yet. People going to libraries, to old archives, to looking up the stuff on still on what's that called, microfilm, microfiche stuff, whatever
Yep.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that still exists, and you may need some historical reference to look something up. So Are your thoughts similar to that? That there's many like branches on that Osint tree that you just have to find what you really like.
Yeah, and this is something we had in a podcast with Abby from Fivecast a couple weeks ago. Is OSINT used to be this small niche of, okay, go and research the internet, go to Google and type in what you need to find, and then go down the rabbit hole of that. OSINT now is encompassing a giant piece of everything, right? There's OSINT in regards to network operations and finding a network, IP address type networks. There's social media. There's it's so many things going on. I mean, you can could I can there's so much stuff, and it's hard to keep track of what's going on. So OSINT has become this ginormous bowl of stuff you can just dig into, and maybe it needs to get separated out, and people need to start specializing in certain parts of OSINT too. Further down, you have it in the military where you have all sorts of analysts. Now there's cyber analysts. Now there's and then before there was geo and SIGINT. Like, keep those things separate so that someone can focus on that and spend their time doing all of that.
Right, because unfortunately, some of the small ones, someone was talking about geological research. I have to come back to see. Sorry.
Yeah, there's so many comments in here.
I know it goes fast. I tried to warn you.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with it. I want to make sure we're answering them, because you and I, by the way, Adam, live about 5 seconds into the future from what you see these chats come through as. So I forgot to tell you that before we went live here. So some of them usually refer back to a few seconds, and my memory is that of a gnat, and it's gone. If I've changed subject, it's gone. So I apologize when you mentioned what I just said. I don't.
No, you're going to do the same thing. It's my brain works that way. It's just years of doing this, years of thinking fast.
Yeah, I switch subjects fast. That's about. I wouldn't call what I do thinking, but yeah. So I want to switch back to the company side. I want to try to stick to our topic, and it's my fault. I keep straying you off of the main line here. Is one of the things that we had set to talk about was, what do you think? And you may have answered this already with the structure of intel within an org, and I missed part of the answer. I apologize, but if what do you think an organization's missing, right? What's the biggest thing that's missing in an organization and their intelligence gathering capabilities?
Just a cohesive unit to do intelligence, right? Like, and I'll add to that, and the understanding of what intelligence can provide. A lot of several years ago, cyber threat intelligence teams was a buzzword. CTI this, CTI that. It still kind of is a buzzword, but no one really knew what they were. No one knew what they could do. Mm-hmm. So you pull in all these people together. And when I worked as a cyber threat analyst, I have formal military training. We pulled a guy from fraud who was smart on the internet. We pulled a guy from the banking background who knew all of this stuff about what's going on in banking and industry and stuff like that. But he was really smart with computers and went to Microsoft's 8-week course in Redmond or wherever it is, that long course. But we didn't know what we were supposed to do. We didn't have any, these are your directives. These are what you need to do. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like, when I was working in my last company, and I'll defer to this again, I had to come up with our intelligence requirements. In the military lifestyle, in the military world, and in the government, those intelligence requirements don't come from the analyst. They come from leadership. They come from the CEO. So I was like, can I sit with the CEO for 10 minutes? And I know this is a very tough thing to ask because he's a busy man. And I was like, hey, can I literally go and sit with the CEO and ask what keeps him up at night from a cyber perspective? And they're like, no, you need to come up with the PIRs, and that's what we're going to go with. And I'm like, I'm guessing in the dark here, right? I'm just throwing out words at this point to what we need to research based upon MITRE and all these other frameworks and, MITRE attack framework and that type of stuff. And it's crazy. But I think that's a problem. People don't understand what a team can bring you. I was a cyber threat analyst, but I was mainly focused on vulnerabilities. So my biggest pain every month was Microsoft Patch Tuesday.
Right.
Trying to figure out how many of the criticals actually impacted our organization and what that meant for us. And did we need to push patching? And for anybody that doesn't know, patching doesn't happen immediately at organizations. I'm telling you that now. If you're in a college class where they say patch immediately, patch immediately, patch immediately. Tell your professor that doesn't happen in the real world. They have to download the versions, do a test, make sure that it works in QA, make sure it doesn't break anything, and then maybe a month and a half later they'll install the updates. Okay, so you're always one step behind, and oh, we could go on and on about this, but yeah, it's. I think what you have to do is you have to know what the team's trying to accomplish, come up with a clear mission for that team. Whether it's your job is to gather social media sentiment against the company, or find out who's trying to attack us from on the cyber side. Having a clear mission statement and then sticking to it and keeping them there. Right. I think at the end of the day, that's what needs to get done. Is the managers and the people above need to understand where that team can always push in and help give guidance to those teams to do the job correctly.
Right. No, 100% agree with that. Now, obviously, I mean, we're getting low on time here,
Yep.
everyone. But if you want to go past 3 o'clock,
I can go past. It's up to you.
Yeah, I try to wrap up the main topic that way everyone else's time. But if everyone chatting, we'll keep chatting. I don't care.
Yep.
I'm good with it. But I wanted to ask this. Obviously, with everyone's got tight budgets nowadays. I think everyone always has a tight budget with that. What should organizations be looking at in terms of things they can do to maybe cut costs, produce, kind of increase the effectiveness of their team? Are there certain tools that you utilize that obviously authenticate silos? One of those. I'll just get that out of the way now. But is there anything else that you think teams should be looking at to utilize to pull information out and budget friendly? What should they do budget wise?
I think the hard part with is determining how big the organization is and how much budget they have to spend. I always stuck out of those conversations because I'm not one to. If you told me, hey, you can spend this, I'm spending it. But am I spending it the right way, and am I getting the bang for my buck? What you need to do from an organizational standpoint, and it's probably isn't answering the question. Figure out what tools work for you and if they're the right cost. Some tools are going to work better for other organizations than others, right? And that's why there's so many things out there. There's so many tools out there to help you with finding information on the open web or the surface web, finding information on the dark web. The hard part is how do you synthesize and bring that all together? So maybe spend money on data aggregation if that's possible, or some way to parse that data into something that is manageable and usable for your analysts. I don't know of tools that do that. It's been a while, but I don't think there's anything out there that would help parse or, there might be one or two things that help parse and bring data together, but you still got to sift through it. Someone's still got to look at it.
Right.
So it's hard to say where to spend the money because I was never in those conversations at any company I've been at. When it comes to the tools we were buying or looking at, there's so many out there, and I don't know if you want me to name drop a couple of them or not.
No, I don't care. It's up to you. Entirely up to you whether you would do.
I mean, some of them are competitors. Some of them are, there's tons of tools out there. Intel 471, Flashpoint, Recorded Future, Anomaly. All these tools out there are great. It's just what fits the analyst team that you're building, what you're trying to accomplish, and what fits your budget. And most of the time, these companies will help fit that budget in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some of the tools can be really costly. I mean, people will be, I think, surprised. You think digital forensic tools are expensive? Oh, hang on for this ride. Some of the intelligence gathering tools are really insane price wise.
How much were you paying for Cellbrite back in the day? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, we got in early, so it's been a long time since we did it. We got in early, had a great sales rep. They treated us good. So we got it pretty inexpensive. We had of course, the law enforcement rate back then was much lower than what it is today, but the tool was more limited. So that was my way of saying it was cheap, much cheaper back then than it was today. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the other digital forensics tool that does cell phones. It's not Cellbrite. I know one of the guys there.
Yeah, there's a few out there. Magnets, I think it's got one. Gray Shift is one, but now Magnet, they bought Magnet. There's so many. It's hard to keep track of them all that are out there.
I was certified in this one, so that's why I'm trying to remember it.
Oh,
and I know one of the guys who worked there for many moons. MSAB.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. See, my brain works just like yours. I don't remember much of anything these days. It's been so many years.
Yep. Joe Mo agrees that MSAB is the thing. Jansen, that's the name I got. I was thinking Jansen and Mo at the same time, and Joe came out. He used to be the CEO over there. Now they got a new one. He's
Jensen Calhoun.
oh yeah, he's
I know Jansen. He's a good man. Good
yeah,
man.
he is. He's awesome actually. But he's I have had him on the show a few times, and
Mm.
it's always fun with Jansen if you know exactly what I'm talking about. And anybody in the industry that's met Jansen knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's not
Good
with
man.
MSAB anymore, so sad a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I still have him back on. Maybe I will. Hey, with Osint stuff, also, there's, again, we talked about training courses a little bit. We've talked about budget a little bit, but what's your opinion out there on some of the open source tools? Have you used any of those? I know before we went live, I talked about Spiderfoot, some of the open source stuff. Do you have any experience with some of those, and whether they're worth a look at or anything?
A little bit. Hard part is, and I mentioned to you before the show, I tried to do Spiderfoot, but I don't know enough coding, and I couldn't get it to work on my Kali distribution to make it
Mm.
do anything. Would it have been cool to see what it did? Absolutely. I've played around with Bellingcat's little TikTok scraper. So it is interesting. I guess the hard part is, like I said, man, there's so much stuff out there to use from an analytical perspective and an OSINT perspective. You've got to pick the ones that work for you. I tell everybody this in my trainings, and it may sound old school, but I go to Google and I start at Google. I hate to say it. It's what I do. It's how I've been doing this for my entire career, right? Google or a search engine or some type of search engine. And while that may not be the right answer, that's what I start with. Everybody's different. We all have different ways of thinking and ways of doing things. Whatever works for you will work for you. If it works for you, keep doing it.
Yep, and that's really the best advice, because you can teach somebody. I guess it's when someone's talking to me and they say, "Oh, you should do it this way," and I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of that old dog and new trick thing that doesn't work out so well. It's got to be unless it's really super easy for me. Keep it basic, right?"
Mhm.
Someone's asking real quick here in the last few minutes that which certs are recognized by employers for OSINT? Is there certs in OSINT?
I know that CompTIA has a cybersecurity analyst cert. I think it's the CYSA plus.
Okay.
I think I've not taken that one again because I haven't formal training and formal experience. I went right to Sec Plus. I'm sure there's other ones out there. It's again, SANS is technically a cert that they'll recognize for OSINT, right? Um, Honestly, if I was going to hire somebody, if you spent 4 years at college writing papers in a digital world like we are today, you know how to do research. You know how to kind of do OSINT because you're trying to find answers to some silly questions. I mean, I don't know much about anthropology, so I'm on Google. Like, what is this really going about? Why am I taking an anthropology class in college, right?
Right.
But I'm able to find what I need to answer the question, and so that's what I feel OSINT is. If you can do research however you do it, that is OSINT, in my opinion. Some people may agree, disagree. That's what we're here to do: is have the conversation, get the topics out there.
Yep. No, absolutely, for sure. I'm just digging through all of the questions here real quick. Holy crap, there's been a ton of them.
Yeah,
And some of them I've missed, some of them I haven't, and I apologize. There's no way we're going to get. Okay, most of them were having to do with technical issues, so we're not too bad. We caught most of them in there, I think.
I saw one that caught my eye, and I think
Sure.
it has to do with um, AI, AI, ML, um, and how do we trust that stuff, right? And what do we do for that stuff?
Hmm.
And this is a conversation I've had before too, where it's like machine learning and artificial intelligence can help you do analysis and help you bring the data together. I still think at the end of the day, there has to be an analyst, a human person behind the scenes writing the comment or at least looking it over and making sure that it's done right. And the
Hmm.
reason why I say that is, and again, I'm looking in the comments, Chris mentioned Chat GPT. Chat GPT is a great tool, but who wrote it? What's their bias? Why did they write it? What is their background? Like, there's all these questions you have to ask when you're looking at AI and machine learning, and you're like, crap, I didn't think about that. A lot of people don't. They're like, oh, I'm just going to use AI to put all this together and write an analysis for me. That's great, but
Right.
Who wrote the code? How did they write the code? Did they write it with? And I don't want to get political, but are they liberal or are they conservative? Are they middle of the road? What? These are things we need to consider as analysts, because if we don't, we're bringing in problems
Yep.
to the analysis we're trying to do.
I guess is the question, is AI bias? And I've ran personal tests on it. And if anyone's interested, get a hold of me away from the live broadcast. I will share it with you. Actual facts of things that occurred at incidents that were like heavy in the news, and then what specifically Chat GPT answered. And man, is it ever biased? So just be careful. I think what you're trying to say is it's how it's trained, right? If it's trained by someone who believes a certain way or fed it certain side of information, maybe not intentionally, I don't know. But that's what it's going to have. That's the information it's going to spit back out at you.
And again, it's the hard part, right? Because again, I've told you this. I have bias in my daily life. I bias all the time. My job as an analyst is to go, okay, I need to take that bias out and look behind the curtain. I would say, open the curtain up and then go, okay, take out my bias from anything I'm doing. As I mentioned before, like not everybody's a bad guy. When I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, not everybody's a bad guy. Look at them as a human, and you have to cognitive. That's what I'm looking for. You have to actively think about that and think about, God, I got to pull this out. I got to stop talking that way, right? Because if you don't, the analysis won't be right.
Right. And it's hard enough as a human trying to get over bias sometimes when you realize that you do have bias by nature. Everybody does. And then much less trying to rely on an AI to do that. And Ron says, hey, if AI puts tomatoes in gumbo, you do not trust it. That's what he's
I don't
saying.
know about that.
Don't trust it. Anyway, I'll
Hey,
have to take your word for it.
yeah,
I'm not a
we'll
gumbo
go with you on that
fan.
one.
I've had it. It's wonderful, but I don't know how it's supposed to be made. So, hey, Adam, thank you so much, man, for hanging out. I mean, I invite you back. We could talk for another hour, I'm sure,
Yeah.
on this. I'd love to invite you back, just have another conversation about it, because obviously you got a lot. There's a lot of chat and people asking questions and bringing up good things here. So that definitely a hot topic. We'll get together and see when we can get you back on the show, if you're open for it, of course. Not that
I
I'm
am. I am,
on
and
the live
I,
guest.
I would love to come back on the show. And when I heard you were doing this, I was like, I talked to my marketing people. I'm like, can I get on? Whether it's talked about anything, is I just, and as we talked in the pre-meeting, earlier this week, all I'm trying to do is spark the conversation.
Right.
We've got to have these tough conversations of, where does the Intel team need to be? Do you agree or disagree with me? I don't care if you agree or disagree with me. We need to have the conversation and get it in people's minds that maybe this isn't the right way to do things. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but let's talk about it. Let's get that out in the open, I guess.
No, absolutely, for sure. 100%. And that's what these are for, right? Is, we teach a little bit in these, but these are more of a conversation just like that to learn more about the subject. And so I, again, appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Real quick, John, hey, anytime. Thank you. I'm glad you hung out and watched the show for a little bit. It's Ops Midwest. Am I going to Salt Fork this year? I think so. Brad had sent me an email that I haven't got back to him yet about giving a talk there. I think I may give a talk. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I better hurry up and do that. But anyway, it's conferences. Adam, are you headed to any conferences? You guys go to anything coming up?
I've tried. So I got my formal. We don't want your presentation was not accepted to Osmosis Con. Maybe I'll try next year. I've submitted to maybe do Osint Combine down in Australia. I'm trying to get. I'm not much of a public speaker. It's not what I used to do. I'm transitioning into it, and so I'm trying to get out there and trying to get on there. But I don't want to be just a public speaker on the circuit, if you know what I mean. I want to spark conversation and maybe spark some change in the cyber world and the OSINT world, and try and get people just to think deeper. Maybe we should do it this way and that way, like I said. And this has been a great time for me because, again, I love just having a conversation. We could talk, like I said, we could talk hours and hours on everything, and that's why I like doing these things. I just love having conversations with people.
I know. And we didn't even talk any Star Wars whatsoever, which is we were too busy talking about the OSINT side.
Look, I'm glad, and I told you this the other day, I'm glad Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are fixing Star Wars as much as they can. They're fixing it.
Nope. Good thoughts. We're going to get Megan fired up. I told you the meeting we had earlier this week that she's even a bigger Star Wars fan than I am, which is you're gonna fire it all up as soon as she hears the term Dave Filoni. She's gonna be what? Hang on, or John
Well,
Favreau.
see, this is the thing. I've got books downstairs in my basement. The original, they're not called legends. They're the original canon books still in my basement that I've read, and I've read them all. So yes, that's how big of a Star Wars nerd I am. Now that everybody knows, I read the books.
Yep. Yep. I'm an audiobook guy. I listen to them being there really long because I have this awesome ability to, if I'm reading a book, to put my face I fall asleep in it. So audiobooks are for me. And by the way, yes, Star Trek on Paramount Plus was absolutely awesome.
Just finished it today.
Picard just wrapped up. I didn't want to give any spoilers away in case someone didn't watch it. It literally was just on yesterday, so I try not to talk about it for at least a week or so.
Yeah.
I mean,
gotta finish Mandalorian this week.
Yeah. I like Star Trek so much. My son is named Riker after Commander Riker. So yeah, that's I'm a nerd. Whatever.
I wasn't an original Star Trek fan. We're going off topic here again, but I wasn't a big Star Trek fan. I have been more recently with New Worlds. What was the other one?
Discovery was
Discovery, the original Enterprise, and some of the other stuff. I've become more of a new age Star Trek. That was my phone, if that's what you heard.
Yeah, I was looking because I got these earbuds. Like I lose depth, and I'm like, where's it at?
That's my phone sitting in front of me here. I had a couple text messages come through. I'm like, oh God, I'm on a call. Leave me alone.
No worries. My do not disturb turned off and messages started popping in. So part of the live show. It happens, right?
Yes.
Okay. But again, Adam, if people want to get a hold of you, they can. Do you have a way to contact? You're in the hub, aren't you? You're in Cyber Social.
I'm in the hub every now and then. I need to get in there more often.
You guys can message him in the hub too if you don't give an email address. I perfectly understand. We're all security folks and we're cognizant of that. You can join Cyber Social Hub. It's absolutely free to come in. Will we send you marketing emails? Yes, we will. You can opt out of those. That's just part of how we run keep the servers spinning, right? People have to pay for it somehow, but it doesn't cost you guys anything except maybe occasional email from us. Hey, thank you. We're getting some thank yous. So Swenson, we appreciate you guys all hanging out, and I know John mentioned some stuff earlier. To thank us before my fake wrap up before we got off on the Star Trek and Star Wars. So, but Adam, thank you so much. We'll have you back on the show. Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. For everyone else, thanks so much. Don't forget also starting next week. What day? Thursday. I'll be live at IASIS down in Orlando, Florida. So they're training. There are big training events going on all next week and the week after that. I'm going to be broadcasting down there. We're going to be talking to a bunch of people. Hey, Dan made it in. Hey, have a great weekend. So we're going to be talking to a lot of people next week. They're going to be short little blurbs, but to find out what's new in the industry down at the IASIS training event. So until then, you guys, I will talk to everybody next week. Again, Adam, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No
Have
problem.
a good weekend, everyone.